Welcome to our podcast, Parenting by the Pint. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, Minivan Mafia. Lauren and I are longtime friends from Chicagoland that love getting together to chat about life, kids, family, and beer.
Each week, we'll feature a brewery and sample at least 2 of their beers.
We'll also discuss a variety of topics ranging from parenting, pop culture, travel, marriage, and just about anything else that comes to mind.
Welcome back, everybody, for another episode with us. We're really excited about this one. We have a special guest, Jeremy from Lagunitas, is with us, but still in California, where
We're
I'm sure
all
it's
in our
nicer
own
than
place.
Chicago. We're in our own little bubbles, but we are going to be drinking together and learning about Lagunitas and Jeremy, and we're going to start with their new line, the Disorderly Tea House, and we're starting with mixed up berries, spiked and sparkling tea. I will mispronounce that. So Gaia.
Why don't you tell us how to say it, Jeremy?
Excellent. So the word there is guayusa.
Guayusa. I'm going to practice.
Guayusa. It does have a really cute little USA in the middle of it. So it's a patriotic tea, but it's actually not really a tea. It's a tree that grows in the Ecuadorian rainforest.
Oh, okay. Cool.
To be a tea, it has to be in the Camellia sinensis family. So that's just the botanical order of what is considered your traditional teas. But let's face it, it's got all the attributes of tea. It's got the flavor and people have been drinking it for years, especially the indigenous peoples of Ecuador. And it's relatively unknown in the world.
Okay.
Yeah, I
awesome.
had definitely never heard of it, but it is definitely tea flavored. I really like the fact that you can taste the tea to it.
I mean,
like blackberry.
sometimes.
What kind of berry do we got here? It tastes.
Yeah, I think
blackberry.
you're right. Raspberry and blackberry, but I get blackberry maybe a little bit more on the forefront. It's got the thing about it is, and I've had a little bit of hard tea, especially now because I knew we were going to have this episode. But what I like about this is it's actually the smell. It actually smells like tea. Mm-hmm. Whereas sometimes when you're drinking the hard teas, it just smells like sweetness or corn syrup or whatever's in it that's making it taste sweet, whatever flavoring is in it. And this, you get a little bit of both. So I get the fruity smell, but I also get I sense that the tea leaf smell.
Absolutely. And you're spot on too. There's no corn in this.
Right.
A lot of things are made from corn and unfortunately in our country, that means GMO. So wanted to avoid all that stuff and have kind of a wholesome product. And you're spot on about noting the tea is very genuine and very authentic in this. A little bit more about guayusa. You already mentioned it's grown in the Ecuadorian rainforest, and it's kind of a kindred plant to yerba mate, which is something we've all heard of or that we enjoy. Yerba mate is traditionally smoke dried, and guayusa is sun dried. So there's no smokiness, and the attributes, which I feel shine a lot more. You get more of the tea character out of the mixed up berries. This was the first one we ever created about 3 years ago, or right before the onset of the pandemic was when we put this in our tap room. And the guayusa I described as rich, supple, unaffordable leather. So the store you walk into and say, this isn't going to work out for me, but I really like how it smells in here.
Yeah,
sure.
A little bit of pipe tobacco or rich, moist tobacco. Obviously, there's no tobacco, no nicotine, but it's got that kind of smell. Mm-hmm. And then it's very herbal. If you notice, it's got a lot of just pleasantries. And the reason it's coming out so natural is this is not made from an extract or a concentrate. or in essence, we are brewing the tea here in our brewery. But brewers are brewing the tea, and it's a big pain.
I was
I've
gonna say
always
they
felt,
must love that.
oh yeah, love in quotes.
Right.
But you generally find, as is the case with cooking, the more tedious it is, the more rewarding it can be. And the same thing is, of course, true in brewing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely get that herbalness to the aroma for sure. I mean, if you like tea, this is definitely I have some friends who really like, they drink tea instead of coffee. I'm the opposite. I drink coffee instead of tea, but this lends itself very well to something different that I haven't really experienced in an alcoholic beverage before. It's not like a seltzer. It's not really like the other
no seltzer talk.
teas. It's not really like the other teas that are on the market, at least that I've tried. Maybe one exists out there, but this truly is more of a tea versus, I feel like some of the ones that are out on the market are saying they're a tea, but they're more like a sweet tea, which is a very different flavor than an actual herbal tea is.
Very true.
Yeah.
This is not sweet. It does, we like to pick on seltzer, so I'll get in on that with you guys. I think they kind of, they don't have a soul, and the same large market players that make those seltzers do make hard teas, and almost always, as you noticed or noted, they are overly sweet, whether or not that's from real sugar or some sort of sugar substitute. And then they are almost all universally from black tea. So black tea is that's your commodity product. You go into a restaurant, I just want a nice tea, that's going to be black tea.
Right.
And then furthermore, they're going to be made from some kind of a concentrate. They're not in their facilities with those tea leaves, making tea.
Grinding and steeping and all of that. They're just pouring in some concentrate into a vat, probably.
Definitely not. And we live in an interesting time in beverages in general. So in Bev Alc, there's something going on that's being dubbed the Great Convergence. So that's like everything mixing with everything else, the blurring of the lines, if you will. But if you look at non-alc and just beverages in general, we live in a pretty adventurous time, right? Like mushroom coffee, for existence.
Oh, sure.
You can now get a coffee substitute that's entirely made from mushrooms, and they're actually not bad. So why guayusa? It was, well, let's take something that people maybe haven't heard of, and let's get ahead of it, because people will be hearing of it. This
Right.
will be common in a few more years, because it has a great flavor.
Yeah.
It does, definitely. I'm not, and Lauren said it as well, not much of a tea drinker. I do enjoy a nice cup of tea, especially like on a cold day, where you want something that's going to warm you up. And coffee might be not right in the situation if you're worried about caffeine or something like that. And I like the idea of it tasting natural and not overly sweetened. And I don't put, like, when I drink tea, I don't put sugar in it. I don't even put sugar in tea. I know people do, but I like this idea because you do get a little bit just of a sweetness just from the berry flavor, and that's your sweetness rather than putting a bunch of sugar in it.
The other thing I do actually really like about this, and then we'll have to ask Jeremy some questions about Jeremy, and move on from tea, but I like the carbonation to it. Again, some other competitors in the market are very flat to me, and so that taste really doesn't do anything for my taste buds. It's just a very flat kind of drink that is really kind of like an alcoholic sweet tea is what a lot of them remind me of, which is fine if that's what you're looking for. But this really just is a different flavor, and then also a different mouthfeel to it because it's got that carbonation, which is a nice combination between the tea, the little bit of sweetness from the berries, and then that carbonation just makes for a really well-rounded sip when you're taking it, in my opinion. So I do actually really enjoy it.
Well, bubbles serve as excellent vehicles to bring aromas up and deliver them out of the glass. So being beer brewers, we're very, flat beers, not really that fun.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
definitely had it, right? It's typically one of the most common ways to put down a beer is call it flat.
Yeah.
And people don't drink carbonated teas when they go to a restaurant and you order an iced tea. And we thought about it, a lot, and we tried it still, or not carbonated, and those flavors just weren't jumping as hard, and it just became alive with just a little bit of carbonation.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the carbonation in this specific beverage is kind of a little nice carryover from like beer and even, God forbid, seltzer. People who do drink seltzer are going to see this carbonated tea and they're going to think, oh, it's carbonated though. So, maybe I'll like it because I like seltzer. And that may inspire them to take that step and try that. And I think, like you said, I think it enhances it. Absolutely. I absolutely love the idea of it being carbonated. But I think for like when you're talking about beer drinkers and other people that are drinking alcohol, that's a very like they're going to jump on it for that reason.
It broadens your market base.
Absolutely.
With some of those
Definitely.
things. So that's great. Well, I'm going to continue drinking this, but why don't we, Jeremy, tell us a little bit about your just origin story in the industry or with Lagunitas, or how did you get to kind of where you're at now? What was your starting point?
Right. I'll try to be very, I'll try to condense a little bit. It is an interesting time of year because in about 4 days, I'll be coming up on my 19-year anniversary.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. People think I'm just this like California guy. And I did live a big part of my life in Chicago when we built that brewery.
Okay.
And learned how to properly pronounce the letter A, like, salad and that long A, sausage, it becomes infectious and you start to talk that way when you've been there a long time. But I'm originally from Tennessee.
Oh,
okay.
I'm a transplant, and I was a home brewer, like many craft brewers. And I was living in a landscape of the early days of craft beer, when I would say the labels were more adventurous and attractive than the liquid in them. So this breweries that I really looked up to when I was a home brewer were oddly all ones from the Western Wall. So that was my attraction to come west. But breweries like Rogue, Stone, Deschutes, Anchor was a really big one. Anchor Brewing, Liberty Ale, they're in San Francisco. And it was Fritz Maytag kind of rescued this brewery and became one of the early fathers. And that was the first beer I had ever had that had been dry hopped. And I remember a distinctly new experience, like there's an expression in Northern California, it comes more from the weed people, but it's the nose. It's saying, if something smells really alluring and mysterious, then it must be good, right? And there was just something about that beer, and I didn't know what dry hopping was, and that led me into home brewing and dry hopping my home brews, and then home brewing led me into looking up where are beer schools. Oddly enough, right next to two places where we have breweries. So one was in UC Davis, California, about an hour from Petaluma, where Lagunitas, California is, and then the other one is in Siebel in Chicago. But because I was in Tennessee, I was like, well, that doesn't seem like any excuse to go to California and move there, and was just completely. I mean, Davis is like, it's hard to describe. It's another one of those fairy tale places where there's more bicycles than there are cars, and it was generally kind of frowned upon, even in early 2000, to drive your car anywhere.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I remember I was kind of like into being fit then, and I went and bought some weights for lifting weights, and they're like, well, you have to get those on your bicycle. So I remember this really
Heavyweight.
interesting bicycle ride,
Oh, man.
holding 2 dumbbells on the handlebars. And no one even batted an eye. No one even thought that that was unusual because you're just fitting
Goodness.
in. And that was a lot of fun. And then found Lagunitas through actually my roommate there was from Berkeley, and he said, "Oh, there's this really crazy brewery. You'll fit right in there." I was like, what are you saying? He's
Right?
like, "Oh
What's
yeah,
that
they're all just
mean?
like they're all just like they just listen to heavy metal and punk rock, and everyone there's a misfit. You'll love it." And I was like, "Oh, what are you trying to say?" And
Thank you.
Yeah, I think.
and he convinced me to come over with some other brew school buddies, and we just like showed up unannounced, and the person had like so many piercings I couldn't even tell what was going on, who greeted us, and their hair was dyed into what I would describe, they look like kind of a skunk.
Okay.
Hopefully she's not listening, because that doesn't sound very nice. But I mean, you know,
I
just
mean,
a
it
lot
was
of
the early 90s. So,
There
you
was a
know, we
lot
all
of,
had questionable things
there
then.
was a lot of like jet black juxtaposed against, you know, white as a sheet of paper white, and then a
Okay.
crazy haircut where it was going every which way. And then she brought us back to tour the brewers, and it was very wild and woolly, and they were just characters, right? And I was like, yeah, this could be fun.
Yeah.
So I wrote a letter to the owner at a time when I realized might have been the last time that I think he opened up his mail. The owner's name was Tony.
Tony
And
McGee, right? Yeah.
Tony McGee. And I realized later that he might not have been opening up his mail because it was all bills.
Yeah,
And
right. Or letters
craft
from the
brewing
IRS.
was a struggle. I mean, it was every little penny was a struggle.
Sure.
Every little barrel out the door was a struggle. And I got to live that life, and I'm very thankful that I did, because as craft brewing kind of went through what I would describe as a renaissance period, where everyone became successful, and it became like it kind of grew up. It became like a real industry with, like, you know, mature. That kind of happened 2008 through 2014. That's when like everybody grew like crazy. And all of a sudden, it wasn't just this like thing where a bunch of punky kids did their big homebrew. It was like, oh my God, there's real money moving in. And obviously we lived part of that story too. But, you know, you guys are in Chicago. We all remember Goose Island. It was like, that was the eye-opening moment where we were like, oh, that's where this industry is going to go. That's how the story is going to evolve. But before then, you know, there was not a lot of, it was just, you know, hopes, dreams, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of passion. And no one ever did this to get rich. So I kind of lived a lot of different, I feel like I worked at a lot of different breweries through those nearly 2 decades of Lagunitas. And it's been kind of a blur ever since. My early memories of moving to Davis are more crisp than what it was like when I started working at Lagunitas, because then it was just like really crazy. And we were a crazy brewery. I mean, there's stories about us, and sometimes the stories get embellished. And you know, we liked to have a good time, and we liked to extend a bear hug from us around all of our fans and friends. And we never looked at them as like consumers. We couldn't tell you what a target audience was. We didn't have any of that like marketing speak. It was really just all about getting together and having a good time. And the only rules were you can't cause anyone else to have a bad time. You know, that was like the most important rule. I found this also useful in parenting.
Oh,
you know,
that's
when dealing with a wild and woolly toddler or a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, you know, explaining to them about, hey, you can go nuts, and you're going to, because you're like a little Tasmanian devil,
right?
But you know, be conscientious of your body. Be aware of what you're doing when you ram into your so-called friend next to you who's now crying.
Right.
You know, little things.
Yeah, I actually it's funny that you say that, because I was thinking with my kids, I have 2 boys and they're almost 11 and 8. And what happens with them a lot is one, they'll be play fighting or goofing off or doing whatever, and one will get hurt, but it'll be by accident. And the other one will just start like yelling at him. And I'm like, no, you should just ask him if he's okay and say, I'm sorry you got hurt. And he's like, why would I apologize? It was an accident. And that kind of goes back to what you're saying. Well, yeah, but the idea is to be mindful and to understand that, when something does happen to someone else, it's okay for you to be concerned about it without feeling like they're blaming you for it.
Yeah, it wasn't malicious, but all
Yes.
of us need to be aware of how our actions, whether they be words or physical, affect the people around us, which I think is a great just takeaway in life, that all of us affects everyone around us. So
Yeah. I mean, I made some allusions to craft beer just being grown up homebrew.
Mhm.
And in a lot of ways, it really, really is. I mean, you step into these small breweries and you see a scummy, dirty blow-off bucket hooked up to a little fermenter. And that's like what we had going on in our glass carboys. But when it comes to kids, grown-ups are just grown-up kids. I mean, look at our, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but when I look at what goes on in our political parties, I'm like, wow, this really has not gone much beyond the playground dynamic.
It's just grade
of a
school.
5-year-old.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah,
it is.
we don't have to go that way, but I
Yeah.
often find myself saying, why is everyone being such a child?
Yeah.
Yes, we agree.
I find myself saying that more often than almost anything else.
Well, a wise man once told me, you grow up once, but you can be immature a lifetime.
Absolutely. That's very true.
Yeah, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up, so I'm just kind of biding my time at this point and
Just
enjoying,
crunching numbers for the time being.
It's like hanging out and figuring things out, and I get to play. You don't play to work, you work to play, I guess. So
Sure.
You can enjoy our time when we aren't doing pretend adulting. So, but okay, cool. So you've pretty much been with Lagunitas all of your industry career, at least for the most part.
For brewing, I had a brief stint as a terrestrial archaeologist, which was actually a really fun job, but it involved working outside and getting a lot of ticks. And I don't like blood sucking parasites. I could be unique there, but it really
I don't think so.
bothered me. So I moved into brewing because of bugs.
Okay.
I could see myself feeling the exact same way about that.
Yeah.
That I would think something was interesting, and then I would be like, oh, there's kind of a lot of bugs here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pass.
No, that's not my
sleeping outside. I'm not gonna do that.
I mean, I like camping, but my version of camping is not the real version of camping.
It might be glamping, I'm thinking.
It's
something more like that would be acceptable.
Much more. We have air conditioning and power, so really,
yeah, that's
so
glamping.
that doesn't count as camping. So I can get away from the bugs if needed. But all right, well, that's awesome. What was the first beer that you really took the lead on brewing at Lagunitas?
I remember this very well. It was called Imperial Red Ale.
Okay.
And I remember thinking in my head that Tony had this little thing where I thought he might be a control freak about the recipes, because he did treat them like they were sacred. It was like it was like these were religious tomes when you were holding a stack of recipes. But he was actually very, very receptive. But I was saying, like, hey, we've got like malts in some of these older recipes that like they don't make anymore. The maltsters don't produce these, and you have Eroica hops here, and I like the farmers don't farm those anymore. And so I said, have you thought about some of these newer hops? And at the time, the two glamour boys, the equivalent of the Justin Bieber of hops, were Amarillo and Simcoe. That's changed a little bit now. Now we live in a time of Citra, Mosaic, Strata. There's always going to be new hops coming.
Sure.
But at this time, Amarillo was kind of new, and he was receptive, and so we popped that in there. And this was a very, very malty, hoppy, rich, sticky, resinous red ale, and it went well. And it became kind of like a reoccurring release. And I remember being real happy. And right at the same time, some of those early like social sites had come out, like Rate Beer and Beer Advocates.
Okay.
I always remember that was really, really hard, because craft beer's greatest tragedy is that it was once fresh. So you can make this delicious beer and you can work at that brewery and you know what that beer is supposed to taste like. And yes, you're drinking that beer when it's less than a week old. But what you don't realize is by the time it's getting going through the distribution network and getting all of its way out to, say, somewhere in New York, and that's where Beer Advocate was more of an East Coast thing. Rate Beer was more of a West Coast thing. Then all of a sudden the consumer would get an older one and leave a harsh review. And so you kind of just like a chef, you have to have a little bit of a thick skin and realize that no one's right or wrong. But beer, especially craft beer, does have a flavor stability thing, and that it really, really helps to take care of it and to drink it fresh, right? And that's something we all the breweries, all the craft breweries deal with. And then we've noted, if there's a few styles that it doesn't apply to as much, like sours, those guys tend to get not fall apart flavor-wise with time, so you can cellar them and age them. Similarly with barrel-aged beers, they're already old. So, if something's already old, it doesn't really hurt it to get, old again. It's like the difference between a 85-year-old person and a 90-year. They're both, that's both sounding pretty old, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
That is, one of the downfalls of so much access to the internet and media and things is that they're like, I never look on like Untapped. I never look on those things, like, because there's so many people who go and rate beers that either they don't like because they don't like the style and they try something and you're like, well, you knew you wouldn't like this. Right. So why are you even rating it? When Kara and I look at beers and we highlight a different brewery every time, whether we like it or not is important to us, but realistically does it taste like it's described? So I might hate peanut butter, but if this says it's a peanut butter chocolate milk stout and it tastes like peanut butter and chocolate, then it's doing what it was set out to do. If you're picking something up and you rate it and you're like, this is horrible, but I hate peanut butter, well, that's not the beer's fault. That's your fault for doing that. Also, I do feel like, we're in a ton of different beer groups on different socials and whatnot. And people drink old beer and then complain that it doesn't taste right. Well, you cannot drink an IPA in 9 months and expect it to taste like it did when it was canned. Like, it's just that's not reasonable. But I feel like people need to be more educated in some of those shelf lives of things and how to properly store and when to drink things. And obviously, yes, it definitely tastes best fresh. Actually, most cans nowadays say enjoy fresh. So hopefully people will listen to that.
The only IPA that I have that's over 9 months old is a bottle of Lagunitas IPA that has the Cubs W on it. Because I was able to snag one of those. Well, so my husband works for a liquor store. And so I just was like, just go through all the
go through all the boxes
and find me one with a W.
That was classic Tony McGee. That was his idea.
That was good. I liked it.
And he is a Chicago native, so building the Chicago brewery for him was kind of like a returning home.
Oh, right.
And
okay.
That Cubs thing was such a big deal, and that was definitely a naughty, thing to do, because all it is a blue W. There's is nothing else. There's nothing.
It's not different in any other way.
It's not different in any other way, and he, I'll never forget, the look on the packaging line. I want you to take this stack and I want you to deal it into the label.
Randomly.
The labeler's got a stack of labels like 2 feet long.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want you to randomly deal this in like a deck of cards. And like, you want me to do what?
I know that must have been terrible.
Yeah, but that's at this point, that's a collector's item. I don't think anyone's going to drink that. Hopefully not. So
Yeah,
no, I will not be. It will stay forever. I will be buried with it.
that's possible.
I don't know, maybe.
Oh.
So let's open another one of these, and then we can carry on our conversation. Talk a little bit more about the tea if you'd like. I know you gave a good introduction of the general, origin, but if you have more to say, by all means, share more. We're going to open
lemon squeeze.
Yes.
So, we were talking before about somebody, maybe reviewing something poorly because it didn't taste like what their expectation was, right? So that is a good point. But one interesting thing about this is there is no expectation. Consumers aren't coming. The only expectation is tea, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have an expectation of guayusa because guayusa is not a mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're really kind of taking a leap of faith here that we feel that people are more adventurous now than they've ever been. And they might be willing to be open to new things and new experiences. So the yuzu is a familiar thing, but then we even got told it's like, that's like the hipster of all the citrus fruit, right? It's, the standard lemon that you get when you get an iced tea. It's so standard, no one even knows what the name of it is, which I believe it's known as a Lisbon lemon. I looked it up.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's so ubiquitous. We didn't even know the name.
Yeah.
But the yuzu is a special lemon. It is a hipster lemon. I think it's from Japan, and it's known for the fact that it has relatively little juice and quite a bit of pith and rind. So you get that in this, and you'll get a little bit more flavor intensity out of this than the previous, or at least I do.
Yeah, I think aroma, it came off a little bit stronger for me.
Yes.
Not to go so far as to say it was more shocking, because that's way too strong of a word, but it was definitely a stronger aroma than the berries.
It's more intense.
Yeah.
Maybe that's better. Intense is a good word.
Intense. Yeah. And flavor wise, I think that you get a little bit more between the balance of the two flavors, where you're talking about like a fruit flavor and a tea flavor. I think I get just a little bit more of the lemon, and the tea is a little bit lighter flavor. Whereas with the berry, I feel like you kind of get they compete with each other pretty evenly. I think this one, it edges it out just a little bit. And it's probably just because it's a strong flavor.
That's a valid assessment. The same amount of tea is used. We love to think in terms of our hops, and like a good IPA is going to have minimum like 2 pounds per barrel. So of course, when it was like, hey, how much tea do we use? Well, we talked to some Ecuadorians who prepare this tea for their native ceremonies, typically used for family meetings and even ceremonial things. And we got the dosage rate. We were like, wow, that works out really close to our hops. That's like 2 pounds per barrel. So we got the same amount of tea in both of these, but the tea flavors, kind of the natural herbal tobacco leather, jumps out a little bit more from the berry, and a little bit less from the yuzu because of that intensity of that flavor. And we are trying to say to someone who's a little bit more, I don't want to say that they're someone who drinks those soulless fruity seltzers, but we are trying to, I straight up get from the yuzu one, I get like, I probably shouldn't say name brand, but we'll say fruity children's cereals that are covered with sugar that we as adults probably don't want our kids to be jonesing for all the time, right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Any of that type of thing. So.
Yeah, the only time I've ever heard of yuzu before was actually in a CBD oil that me and my husband take, and it was a yuzu flavored, and I had never ever seen yuzu anywhere as a flavoring besides that until this. So CBD and Lagunitas tea is the two places I've had yuzu so far. So
You're really letting me down that you don't dine at a Linea every night, because
I
feel
know,
like,
I know.
Well,
I feel like Yuzu is one of those things that they're super charismatic and crazy chef. I feel like that's like something that they would use there. Or
That is fair. I
I think
believe when
that's a
I went
possibility.
to Roca, they had a dessert that was a purple, like a vegetable that had something yuzu with it on the side. So that might be the only other time, but it was in a food. I'll have to investigate
I can't say
that.
I have any yuzu experience. This would be it. This is all.
well, it's
there-
got to start
That's all
somewhere.
right. Yeah,
There
it's
you go,
it's a
yeah.
good intro into
I mean, now that seltzer is kind of like the bubble has popped,
it. Mhm.
and all of the big macro seltzer folks are kind of clamoring to figure out like what they're going to do. And it used to just be like, we're going to be just black cherry, we're going to be mango. And then all of a sudden, all the weird flavors are coming. Have you guys noticed this I feel like we're not far for, we're going to start seeing some yuzu out there from the macro food.
I wouldn't be totally shocked. Yeah.
I mean, they're getting weird. There's like, toasted marshmallow and
There's
Right.
some
Yeah.
there's some very different.
And
Yeah,
they
they
do
were
a
just like
pumpkin
grapefruit
spice.
lime.
yeah. Oh
They
my
make
God,
pumpkin
don't
spice everything.
Right?
So that's
Please,
not
no
even
pumpkin.
Ugh, I know, right? Like it
Just
had to be
that-
like it could get worse, and then they came
Yeah,
out with that.
The mandatory coffee around Halloween, I can do that one.
Yeah.
But I'm
Sure.
I'm not a fan of the pumpkin beer thing.
Oh,
no.
we're actually not fans of pumpkin spice anything, so we're not jumping on
we
that
do-
bandwagon.
I think we did a pumpkin beer episode.
I think we did a pumpkin beer
and we were
episode,
both
but-
just like, well, we're just gonna give this a try. And they were like, they ran the gamut. Like there was one that was like really like vegetable, like just not an appealing flavor in beer. And then there was one that was just like sweet, like what you would think a latte would taste like if they poured it into a beer. And it was just so weird. Such a weird thing.
And the sad thing about that is the one that was perceived as overly vegetable, that was probably the one that was made like the most home brewer,
You're probably
like
right.
with actual pumpkins and lots of them,
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
probably.
you're probably right, because they didn't dump a bunch of chemicals in it to make it
I mean,
taste
it's
like
a squash.
pumpkin.
Have we heard of zucchini beers and squash
that's
beers?
interesting.
I mean, right? It's a squash.
I have not. Yeah, it is. It's the same family. I feel like
maybe
maybe next down the line, Jeremy.
I'm still waiting for onion saison.
Ooh, that sounds crazy.
Yeah. Well, what?
I
Yeah,
will try it though.
give us your craziest. Like, what combination would you
what
think
would you
would
make?
actually make a great but very unusual flavors together of beer?
I guess I'll be giving stuff away that I've done that
That's
but
okay. You can say something you've done.
something unusual that we've done, and in fact, the first seltzer that Lagunitas ever made and sold at our tap room years and years and years ago was cherry and turmeric.
Oh, okay. Turmeric,
And that's a nice combo. I feel like this is more where the cannabis industry is at with their beverages. They go into the realm of the arcane, and they're doing kind of things like that. Some of the players in there. I once was trying to design a beer to see if I could give the CFO a heart attack. So it was going to be black truffles.
Oh man.
And I'm trying to think. It was like the most expensive everything that you have to. I got it now. I remember.
Yeah.
It was black truffle and Spanish saffron, and I was going to figure out how to like age it on gold doubloons.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, I remember like filling out
That's
a little Excel spreadsheet and trying to not be doing this sound.
Yeah, right.
I presented it.
Acting serious.
Yeah, and of course I biffed and I let one out, and then he said, "Get out of here."
See,
that would be
that's
very
what you
expensive.
propose, and
Yeah.
then you suggest the thing you really want to make. So that, well, what if I just do this then, and then you shoot that out there, and
Oh,
then
I
they're
like that.
oh yeah,
The-
that's
yeah,
less
the-
crazy.
The decoy, like, well,
Yes.
I have this one that is clocking in at $3,000 a barrel. But now what do you think about this other one over here that's only 200?
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's how you
classic,
get that one made.
Yeah, yeah, and all craft brewers typically will have a moment where they're going to be called out for making beers that are too expensive, because it's kind of our thing. It really is, and you find the same type of thinking with crazy chefs. You know, yeah, you know, there's something to be said for the mantra "crap in equals crap out."
Absolutely.
Right. So you do really want to vet quality ingredients, and you know, if you're a Epicurean type and you like to cook, you're probably not going with the bottom of the barrel for all of your ingredients, right? I mean, you're just probably not.
Yeah. I mean, even when my husband grills, like he's not going to Jewel, he's going to the meat market, you know, like
Sure. Yeah.
you know, you gotta want to get, in order to make a good thing, whether that's food or I bake, my husband cooks, or beer or whatever it is, you know, you've got to start with quality in order to end with quality. So.
You just have me randomly thinking about cooking with Disorderly Tea House, and then I thought, well, I need to try that. So I have nothing to offer other than I'll get back to you.
All right.
But it did make me think about food pairings, and we haven't really, because now you girls are making me so hungry. All of a sudden, I just wanted to mention that both Disorderly Tea Houses pair extremely well with kind of pan American Asian fusion, and really anything like Thai or sushi. It goes amazing with sushi. They really work, and I really much prefer them to the types of beer that you would normally get at a sushi place. And I don't want to knock on. I'm not the biggest like lager beer fan.
Sure.
And you know, maybe a lager does go well with a nice set of rolls. But if you then have those same rolls with one of these teas, you're going to find you get so much more dynamic interaction with the flavors.
I'm gonna have to save some in my fridge for sushi. I love sushi. I try and eat sushi at least once a week. My 8-year-olds will now eat it with me, so they're branching out into
You've crossed a new page there.
Yes, so I'm excited about that. But I will definitely have to try that. I'm a big fan. That sounds.
My 5-year-old, I realize he eats 9 things that are all analogs of the same thing. So pizza, cheese quesadilla, grilled cheese sandwich, cheese ravioli. I realized everything is a starch and a cheese. Every single thing, they're all 100% the same.
Right. Even macaroni and cheese. It's like the
macaroni
same
and cheese.
thing.
Yep, that's on the list.
Yeah, it's just carbs and cheese.
They can get a chicken nugget every once in a while. It's like
I keep waiting for this adventurous branching out of the taste bud, because you know, when they're really little, right, when they first start eating food, I think they're more adventurous then than they are like a few years later.
I would totally agree. Yeah, I have twins that are 8, and they are polar opposites of each other. So boy, girl. And my boy was adventurous for a while, and now he's like meat and potatoes. And my girl will eat anything. Like she would rather order sushi or shrimp or salmon or like all kinds of stuff, and she will try anything. She doesn't like mashed potatoes, which is weird, because what kid doesn't like mashed potatoes?
My son won't eat French fries. I mean, what kid won't eat French fries?
Yeah, like
my kids, that's the only potato they will eat is French fries. Like if I made something else potato that even had a similar consistency, like a wedge or like even tater tots, like they're just like, no, I'm not going to eat this. I just French fries. And I'm like, you know, it's like essentially the same thing, right?
It's still potato deep fried. Like
it's the presentation.
Isn't it like a crime in anywhere Chicagoland to not eat tots?
I know.
I mean, you know, I just try not to go into situations where I'm faced with that publicly, so no one knows that he's.
That's fair. I have a third child, so my 10-year-old is autistic, and historically a lot of kids who are autistic only eat 5 things. That kid eats every vegetable known to man. Like he will eat a head of cauliflower for dinner if I let him. Like all the vegetables.
Super weird. No.
So my kids are all over the board with what but he will not eat chicken nuggets at all. Won't touch them. Like, I mean,
Maybe it's a texture
fine.
thing.
Yeah, it could be a texture thing for him.
I mean, the nugget is not the natural form of.
Yeah, maybe he just senses that. I mean, as someone who would eat a lot of vegetables, I could see how you would then turn away a chicken nugget.
Yeah, he's not a fan. So, but what is your favorite food beer pairing? Do you have like a grilling in the backyard on a Saturday afternoon, beer and something?
Yeah.
I mean, it's Memorial Day coming up, so.
I know, yeah. I do like to grill. I'm not a big meat person per se. I'm more of a, I like seafood more.
Okay.
And I do over index on hops. So if you look into my fridge, and I don't have a lot of other breweries beers in there, but occasionally, I'm friends with a lot of the, when we are lucky enough to get out there, every brewer trades.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely. That way we can kind of spice up our fridge with something new. But I'm not really that adventurous. I'm always trading my IPA for their IPA, and then I get a new IPA.
Yeah.
I don't really have like a go-to. I mean, I like every form of IPA. So, we make daytime, which is a low ABV session. I found that those are great during the day when you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for having a good night.
Yes.
We've got, the classic IPA, a little something, and then you go to the higher octane, like Maximus, and then there's Waldo, which is like Waldo should come with like a warning letter. Like,
yep.
Yeah, like
that stuff will get you
lit with somebody, but it's actually an amazing food pairing because it's so big and it has so much flavor. It really does pair. And my thing to do with the Waldo is to split it up into a bunch of really small, like those wine glasses that you would do sherry in, and then to enjoy it with some like really nice cheeses. And I find that like blue cheese is one of those things that you can split a crowd down the middle. It's either nope or it's yep. It's freaking like.
I'm a yes, and Kara.
I'm a yes, but I agree with you. It is very divisive, that cheese. I don't know what it is.
We're all foodies, right? So we all love it, but a good blue cheese. What you guys are pretty close to the cheese capital state, right?
Yep.
Oh yeah, Wisconsin.
Yep, and get a good blue cheese and try that on a neutral cracker. When I say neutral, I mean something that's not impregnated with tons of herbs and rosemary, and I feel like those kind of crackers get in the way. And try that with a Waldo. That is, to me, sublime. The way that they work.
That does sound great. I love, like even when we go out to meals and stuff, if I'm not like hungry, I love tapas because I love trying a bunch of different little things instead of one giant meal. So like charcuterie and cheeses and all of that. Now I'm getting hungry, Jeremy. So
I know.
Only a matter of time.
I don't know.
It's later for you guys. It's
we're getting
much closer.
It is. I know. I got to think about that. It's maybe some blue cheese. I don't know. So is there anyone that you have done a collaboration with or would like to do a collaboration with at some point to brew something new and exciting?
We have not been. We're not the ones known as the promiscuous collaboration type.
Not really. No.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily by design or anything. I think that there's plenty of breweries I wouldn't mind collaborating with. And it's funny. I don't even want to say it because they're gonna want to do it.
They're gonna call you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
we can keep that under wrap.
Picking somebody bigger or maybe a really well-respected brewery in another part of the globe could be fun.
Sure.
It's interesting because we did this thing called the Fusion Brew, and we were doing this before collaborations were even a thing. And a fusion brew was we picked a wholesaler, a retailer, home brewer and just a beer consumer fan, someone that didn't know anything about brewing, but just liked beer. And they got assigned into these like random groups. And then they came here and we would brew a 80 barrel. So that's 160 kegs.
Mm-hmm.
We would I would hand them the keys to the brew house, so to speak. And we did over 25 of these things. And some of them went on to become Lagunitas releases. I think the Fusion 20 became Nighttime, which is like our first Cascadian Dark or Black IPA, whatever you want to call it, like a dark.
Oh, yeah.
Back when that style was having its 5 minutes of fame.
Black IPAs,
Yeah. We love to call like trends around here too. Like we did the sour peak, the barrel age peak. I think we called the seltzer peak. We've got a couple things going on the hazy peak.
Yeah.
And then we're eyeing suspiciously all of the trends to say, well, when is it officially a trend, and then when can we start betting on when it's gonna hit its
pop?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of brewers that I respect a lot, and we did do a collaboration with Anchor, and for me that was kind of a homecoming because that was the brewery that inspired me to do this in the first place.
That's
and then
cool.
even cooler was the head brewer that I did the beer with. Just so happened to be a really awesome friend of mine. Yeah, and he's now with New Belgium, but that just made it really fun. It's like you're not really working if you're doing something you love with your friends.
Yeah.
And that's the spirit of the collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the spirit of the craft beer community. Like Lauren and I talk about this all the time when we talk about breweries, especially like all these little ones that are in the Chicagoland area. There's a lot of collaboration, but it's not even just that. Like you talk about trading beers with brewers and stuff like that. And the way that these individuals, these employees of different companies interact with each other is like completely foreign compared to people who are competing with each other in other industries. Mm-hmm. Like it's very intriguing because, like my brother and I run a business together and we don't really collaborate with other companies in the same field the way that people in the beer industry do. And it's just, I love that about the beer community. I think it's more of a fellowship in a lot of ways. Yes, I know there's competition, and obviously, like you said before, maybe nobody went in to get rich, but obviously it's your livelihood and you want to sustain that. So there's a balance there, but I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, we tend not to, I just came back from the CBC, which was held a stone's throw from you guys in Minneapolis this year. And it was great to see after, going kind of on hiatus for obvious reasons, the brewers haven't been able to come together. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Yeah. People are very collaborative. They share. They're not so cagey. And really cool to see is the group has gotten. So my first CBC, and that's the Craft Brewers Conference, was in 2003. It was in San Diego, and it was. Just going to call it out and say it. It was a big group of white dudes. And there was a few. There wasn't much diversity. Let's put it that way. Not a lot of women. Not much diversity. And then contrasting that experience to one almost 20 years later, and there's an exciting amount of diversity and women. And to me, that is just amazing because the spirit is the same. Everyone's like, don't be a jerk. We're all going to share, even though we all compete with one another. Mm-hmm. And I do worry because I predict that the brewery count will probably continue to go up. It blows my mind, this statistic. We're at about 9,118 breweries. That was the last one from the BA. Well, there's 11,000 wineries. I'm out here in wine country, so I'm really sensitive. Wow. Doesn't that really put it into perspective for you how much more run room we have?
Yeah, you're just like, the wineries are really focused in California and even some in Oregon, but that area. But like breweries are all over the place. Like
breweries are a lot more visible because I
Mhm.
don't feel those the fact that there's 11,000 wineries even out here in California, but it tells me that like, you know, okay, it might go to 15,000, it might go to 20.
Wow.
And I really hope that it can keep that nice spirit that you know we're alluding to, because at some point, you know, it's everyone fighting for the same pieces of the same pie, right?
Mhm.
And at some point, everyone's just going to barely scrape, because you know the new model is like you're not really a brewery, you're a bar, right? You're a restaurant.
tap
yeah,
room,
tap
right?
beer
room,
and
brew pub, yep.
yeah,
Mhm.
and that's been a really successful model for a lot of folks, but you know, how many of them can there be, I guess, right? So
Yeah, like restaurants. I mean, but it is interesting, you know, I feel like at least in our area, like it's competition, but it's also a sense of community, but it's also healthy competition because you do like so and so's making this type of a beer with this adjunct. And it's, you know, someone tries it and they're like, oh, this is really good. I'm gonna try and do it better. You know, I'm gonna try and do something different, or I'm gonna try and add something. So I feel like the more kind of exciting, different, unique flavors different people put out, it almost helps continue to expand, you know, just the ideas that people have in what can we put in a beer, like what can we do. You know, one person starts it and other people try it, and you know, it just continues things growing. Like it's amazing how many different types of beer, styles of beer, adjuncts that are in beer. I mean, it's ridiculous. You could find a beer in every flavor now. Like it's crazy, all
Absolutely.
the different
Yeah.
things
home
that I never
brewers will
thought would
add
go into beer.
everything. I mean, home brewers are just anything you can possibly think of, including lots of things that just don't need to
Shouldn't.
be. Yeah. But you know, that's all part of it, right? Being adventurous.
Well, and that's the artistry. I mean, that's where you talk about brewing being art. You know, you talked earlier about coming to the CFO and wanting to make this beer because you wanted quality and it was exciting to you, but it's also it's your art. I mean, you're trying to create something that you appreciate and that you find that other people will appreciate. And I think like you talk about homebrewers putting anything and everything, and it's probably because they have a moment where like the light bulb goes on and they're just like, oh, you know, it would be so cool as if I did this with that. And no one is doing that. And why is no one doing that? Well, maybe that's not a good idea. Or maybe, you know, it's too expensive. So when you're talking about a large scale, brewers aren't going to make that beer, you know? And so I think that comes up too. But I like that about brewing is that you've got the artistic side. I mean, obviously there's science,
Art
a
and
lot of
science
science.
all in one.
Yeah. I mean, whether or not that painting is a masterpiece or an eyesore, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of fun when you divide the room, right? With the blue cheese thing.
Sure. Yeah.
That creates memories, right? It has staying power.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So why don't we open up this last one? Are we ready for that yet? Or do you want to talk a little bit more about some, we got some random questions we could ask you.
I'll open the peach because I don't know if we're going to get, I don't know if Jeremy's going to get a peach. Do we have
a peach?
No.
Jeremy?
I have a peach, yes.
You do?
Alright.
Wonderful. Okay,
We're going to
cool.
open the third in the Disorderly Tea House line as of right now, which is Peach Slice, which I love peach, so I was super excited about this one.
Yeah.
I do.
I think peach is one of those things, actually, you know, that's a little bit divisive. I think people kind of love and hate peach because I've run into people that will die for peach. Like that is their number one favorite thing in the entire world.
So
I've not had this.
No, we haven't had this one, but
smells like peach. Smells good.
The aroma is straight up peach, like you're going to pick peaches in Michigan. Like that's totally what that smells like. Yeah.
It is very peachy. I would say it has the comparable flavor intensity to the Yuzu.
Mm-hmm.
So we're creating a little bit more of that perception of sweetness, even though there's no sugar there that's coming from the flavor. And then it's intense, but it's not cloying, right? It's a very I mean, I know because I've been very close to this. These are the very high end of the flavors. So they're very high quality, very, very complex. We're going for white peach here. So people know there's, white peach and yellow peach. I actually personally, if I'm going to buy and eat peaches, I like yellow peaches more.
Okay.
White peaches tend to be more tame, I think. More fleshy, not as tart.
Yes.
And I think it's a safer play if you're trying to entertain the peach skeptic,
Okay.
right? Which we're definitely trying to invite someone who maybe peaches isn't their favorite thing, but they, we're going to say, well, try this, maybe you'll like this. Peach tea was so obvious that we had to do it thirdsies, not firsties, right? Because
I really the aroma of the peach definitely hits you. And it does smell just like when you're going and picking peaches. The taste is a little bit more tame. I can definitely see that it's more of that fleshy white peach. I feel like the yellow peaches are more, they're more in your face with that peach sweet flavor to me.
Well, and even
This
that
is
tartness
less
that you brought up, it's a
Yeah.
little, you get more of that with like the yellow peach. I get, like you mentioned, that it's a little more fleshy, and I think I get just like a little more of an earthier, not so tart, not so sweet, although I get both of those a little bit, but it's a milder, a little more subtle.
This one
flavor.
comes off, even though our sugar content, as measured by like a laboratory instrument or like calories, is the exact same across all three.
Interesting.
If someone did like sweet tea, I think this would be the one for them because it comes off sweet.
Yeah.
It comes off sweeter than the others, but comparatively, so peach was like a thing like a year or two ago. Like a bunch of people made peach flavored all kinds of things, but I feel like they did it on the peach candy realm. So it was much sweeter and it tasted like those like round Peachio rings.
Peach rings.
Yeah. And so a lot of people, whether there was a couple seltzers, there were a bunch of beers, peach was like in style, but it was very sweet. And so you can only drink so much of that overly sweet tart peach, like kind of hits you in the back of the jaw sweetness to it. And I really like an actual peach, like to eat a peach flavor. And this is much more subtle of the peach flavor than the like in your face peach candy ones, which seemed to be what was more the rage a bit ago. So this is a nice, this might be my favorite of them because I do just really like peach. So that's just
good. I like the yuzu one the best. But I like strong flavors. And I feel that way about beer. I feel that way about coffee. I like beverages all across the board. I really like strong flavors, and not to say I don't like complex flavors, but I like the more intense flavor, and I like the yuzu a lot. I like all of them. They're really good. And like I said, I'm not really a tea drinker, and even in alcohol, there isn't a lot of stuff that I drink that kind of carries over into this sort of thing. And I like these very much. I would absolutely put a case of them in a cooler for a pool party and enjoy them, not just with the guests, but like for myself.
So
I know, right? We're going to have that someday.
Just think about what an upgrade and conversation piece that is from what would typically be found in the cooler at the beach or by the pool, right? It's going to be a bunch of seltzers. That's typically what you find. That's what and this is just so much more premium. And there's a lot of good stories here too. The guayusa tree is a rainforest rehabilitation tree because it's not a row crop. So places that have been clear cut that they're trying to restore the rainforest, the first thing that they're going to plant that could have an economic value is guayusa. And then it's hand farmed, hand picked. So it's putting a lot of indigenous people to work, and they are very happy to be doing something that's tied to them. I do have one funny story that I just remembered about peach tea. So my son, I gave him the Star Wars Lego, and it came with R2D2, and he couldn't remember what R2D2 was called when he was 4, and he called him Peach Tea. So to this day, R2D2 is Peach Tea, whether or not he's playing with the Legos or we're watching it on the TV. He's like, oh look, it's Peach Tea.
Oh, that's so funny. I love little things like that. I know my kids have had things where they've misnamed, they
we
call
keep a
something by the
journal.
wrong name.
We have a whole journal of everything that he's ever said that amused us, so that
I love that.
When he's 18 and brings the girlfriend to dinner, I can just bust out the profoundly embarrass him, which is my goal as an old dad.
I mean, I think that's our role.
It's kind of our job, right? Like, I feel that's part of the job description for sure. So, all right, well, let's wrap up a little bit. Let's talk about things that you like to do when you're not brewing or not at Lagunitas. So, like, what kind of things outside the beer world do you enjoy doing in your free time?
I like to be outside. I like to, camping, hiking, kayaking. I love water. I'm musical. I think it's like required or in your blood when you're born in Tennessee. So I play musical instruments, and I like to hang out with my family and go and find adventures. I'm not a planner, and I'm told this is a problem, but I like to just see where the day or the adventure or the week or whatever it is will take me. And I've always found that's usually very, very rewarding. So
I'm the opposite. We're planners.
Yeah, me too.
We're totally planners.
But my husband is a lot like you, and I have had days where we've done something where it's sort of like, well, let's just see what let's go do this thing. And
I think it's a guy thing. I think guys, it's not that we're lazy and that's why we don't like to plan. It's like the planning just puts a little box around the what could be, and sometimes when you it's not that you say yes to everything. It's like you got to go into Labrador mode, right? Where you're just gonna kind of sniff and feel things out the way that an animal would.
Sure. What draws you?
Right. And the world can be a really fun playground.
Yeah. My husband is also not a planner at all. He rides a motorcycle, and once or twice a year he will go on a vacation just by himself or with buddies. And I'm like, where are you going? He's like, I don't know, whichever direction it's not raining tomorrow. And he'll just get on his motorcycle and follow wherever that is and figure it out as he goes.
I know you guys want some rain. Yeah, 42 days of rain.
We would send it your way happily. Yeah. My backyard was literally flooded. So now I'm ready for sun. Yeah. Yes. So
what did you want to be when you grew up? So you talked about, being a free spirit. What did you want to be?
I haven't grown up yet. I went through a profound crisis of what I wanted to do. I think I'm perfectly okay with being a brewer. At one point I thought I was going to be a veterinarian, so I like animals. Then it was like physical therapist, and I'm like, now I'm just like a veterinarian for people in a way or something, or for people who hurt themselves. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. And then I went to school for psychology, and then it all just landed on brewer. I did ask my son what he wants to be, and he told me Santa Claus. He wants to be Santa Claus.
That's good.
Little does he know.
So much work.
Somebody should be.
I know. That's what I want to. It's just a lot of work. All that breaking and entering and.
That is true.
When my son graduated from preschool, and both of my boys actually had really good answers, they asked them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my older son said he wanted to be a jaguar.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, that's good. That's pretty good. That's like a top of the food chain creature.
Fair.
I could take that. Yeah. And then my other one just said he wanted to be a parent. He wants to be a dad. I was like, oh my goodness, that's adorable.
It is adorable, but
they came from completely different places.
I
love both their answers.
My twin boy wanted to be, I don't know what he wants to be now, but he wanted to be a monster truck driver for a bit.
Oh,
And
That's
my
good.
daughter has always been slightly more ambitious. She wants to work for NASA and be a robotics engineer. She does not want to go into outer space because she doesn't want to meet aliens, but she wants to build the robots that go into outer
Oh,
space.
okay, well that's
So,
fair.
yeah.
Appreciate
There's-
aliens from a
there's
distance.
got to be a monster truck driver that went on to go to NASA.
Right? Like, I feel
Right?
like there's some engineering
work together on that.
there. Yeah, so those two, that's
Aren't
apparently.
the aliens here? I don't think we have to go. You might want to
Yeah,
give
you
her an update, right? It's all over the news.
I do have to let her know that they're already here, so you
Right?
don't have
Yeah,
to
there
worry
you go,
about
yeah.
going
Yeah.
elsewhere to find them. So, all right, what?
So I have a question, and maybe you might have to think on this, and you might not have an answer. If you could drink a beer with any person, dead or alive, they don't have to be connected to the beer industry or anything, a historical figure, an
Could be
actor,
Abraham Lincoln,
yes.
anybody.
Who would it be? And would you drink something in particular? Doesn't have to be beer either. It could be coffee or a glass of wine or.
Oh yeah, this one's pretty easy. I would probably go with Albert Einstein.
Nice.
Um,
That's good.
Just so if he tried to school me, I could be like, "Who do you think you are, Einstein?" I could let him know, what we've done. But I think it would be really cool, and I would picture that he would probably want, because wasn't he born in Vienna? He'd probably want a nice Vienna lager.
That's true. Yeah, you're
Or
probably right.
he's probably a lager guy, and then I would have an IPA, and everything that I've read, he was a kind of a profound, kind of spiritual individual. So I think it would
Okay.
be good conversation.
That's good. I like
Definitely.
that. Those are good characteristics for a conversation with anyone. What would they drink, and the conversation, the quality of the conversation. That's good.
Oh, yeah, that would be definitely spot on.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like it. So, if your child decided to want to do something different and follow in your footsteps to go into the beer or beverage industry, what advice would you have for them? Or would you even say, don't do it?
It's funny because I gave him a tour of the brewery recently. The first thing he tried to do, he's really into Legos right now, and he said, "Dad, I'm going to build the brewery. I'm
Aw.
going to
Lego
recreate
brewery.
it."
Mhm.
And I got to be thinking about how difficult it would be to make those cylindro conical tanks, out of
Oh, with
Legos.
Legos.
That would be
That
that
would be
requires some
challenging.
real. But he is kind of fascinated. I have I'm not against it. I just really, I want him to be him. I'm a big fan of letting kids be kids.
Mhm.
And not trying to put too much expectation on him. I'm already seeing where his strong points are, which right now it appears to be math and numbers.
Okay.
He can do division and multiplication at
Jeez.
5, but he's still not reading books, right?
No.
My 8-year-old's
he's a-
like that.
He's a
better
numbers
now,
guy.
but
Yeah. As long as he doesn't decide to become some sort of fierce numbers guy, I think I'll be proud. But I'm not against it. Probably, at age 5, it's probably just like way too early because he's still telling
yeah.
us Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I'm still hearing Santa Claus.
Mhm.
yeah, right.
Yeah. There's many years of life experience to get to where they will decide. I mean, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up, and I'm gonna be 40 this year, so like they've got lots of time.
Yeah, you got plenty of time to figure it out.
Yeah, there's no rush, Lauren. You're good.
No, I'm fine.
You'll get there.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. This is pretending until maybe I'll never get there. I'll just pretend. It's totally fine.
Lauren and I sometimes talk about other parents' perspectives. We had an episode recently where we talked about like judgmental parents, where they look at what you're doing or how your kids are doing or what their progress is, and they kind of make a judgment, and whether or not that's their place. And I think about that with talking about your kid's future. Like, your kid's 5. Even my almost 11-year-old will tell you he wants to be a singer when he grows up. And I'm not going to tell my 11-year-old that might be really hard to do as a career. I'm going to support him enjoying whatever makes him feel good, and allow that path to take him, wherever it takes him, because maybe someday he starts writing music, or maybe someday he does sing, or maybe it's his favorite pastime, and if I were to deter him now, no, you can't do that, you'll never get a job doing that, I would never say that. I mean, just to do what you enjoy. You want to be a professional soccer player? You've never played soccer before? Go ahead, man. Have fun.
Remember, there's no bad kids, only bad parents.
Yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
I believe that. Definitely. Yeah. Unfortunately, the older my kids get, I feel like the more I've noticed that.
You interact with that. Yeah.
We try our best. So, all right. I'm going to continue drinking the peach. Kara will continue drinking the yuzu. Why don't we ask our movie question as kind of our wrap up? Kara, this is your favorite question.
So Lauren and I did an episode a while back where we made this list of questions, and it's actually based on another podcast that we had listened to, where you ask these variety questions. What's your favorite movie? What's the best movie? What's the scariest movie? All these questions. And the last question in that podcast, and the last question we asked each other in our episode was, if you died tomorrow and you could bring one movie with you to share with others in the afterlife, what would it be?
That's really hard.
So it's got to be something, doesn't have to be the best movie you've ever seen. It's got to be the one you want to share with people.
Oh, it's kind of sad and kind of awesome, but I think it's going to have to be Mars Attacks.
Oh, that is kind of awesome. That is definitely unexpected. You get that one very much? Never. No.
And the podcast where he asked the questions of everybody on it, I've never heard anyone say Mars Attacks. I love that. That's great. Why? Go ahead and tell us your reason why.
Well, I mean, didn't it please you when you got to see like all of Congress get vaporized in 1 second? And then the head become a chihuahua?
Yeah, right.
When they did the head swap thing?
Yep. I feel like I have to go back and watch it based off of our current environment, like the world
as president. I mean,
you can't go wrong with that. You really
everything
can't.
About it. It's just like the whole thing is it's just so ridiculous, but at the same time, it's satire, right? And and kind of similar to if you've seen Don't Look Up.
I have actually. We watched that recently.
That's a great movie, but it just doesn't have the firepower that you get from Mars Attacks. You know what I mean?
I agree completely. And it doesn't have. Well, and I love Tim Burton too. So I think that, and I think the cast in Mars Attacks was great. I have to go back and rewatch this now. It's been
definitely.
Just the way the aliens, just the way they talk is pretty hilarious.
So you're really going to bring some comedic relief to the afterlife, but along with that, just a different way of looking at things.
I'm going to hedge my bets that somebody else that's there probably picked, the Titanic or
right,
and
Goodfellas or something like that.
Godfather. We're gonna need something like that. And if you'd asked me when I was my son's age, I would have said Goonies.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Right?
Yep.
Well, in 5 years from now, maybe your answer is different, right? I mean,
sure,
could be.
Or 5 years earlier may have been a different answer. I think that's absolutely the case.
Well, now that they make kids movies that are also for us, like we just watched Soul. That movie.
I love that movie. That's one of my favorites recent kids movies.
Yeah. I like the Sonic movies a lot. Those really do it for me.
Haven't gone there yet.
Oh, you should see the Sonic movies. You don't have to love Sonic the video game. I mean, that's a bonus if you're slightly familiar with that, but it's just so funny. It's just so funny. And the story is actually pretty good, which is occasionally, even ones that cater to adults a little bit, you kind of don't really get much of a plot, but the Sonic movies are really good. I highly recommend.
I read to my son every night, and he was going through the bad guys kick. So we checked out that movie. Surprisingly, very good. So Yeah.
Lauren
But
and I saw it
We
with our
just
kids
saw it with our
together.
kids. Yeah, like
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was good. My kids loved it. They talked about it nonstop. It was good.
And who would have thought, 10, 15 years ago that we'd be sitting here talking about all these kids movies
I know.
while
that is-
drinking alcohol.
while drinking
Right.
alcohol. Yep.
I did not
Yep.
know this was coming.
But I like it.
great
I like
transition,
where we're
yeah.
at. So this has been great. So, well, thank you for joining us
Yeah,
and
thank you so
for
much.
teaching us a lot about the tea and all kinds of different things. This was fantastic, and telling us a little bit about your origin story and reminding me I need to go rewatch Mars Attacks. So,
Yeah. Ooh, and I have one thought. We were talking about food and the tea, and I actually thought you could probably marinate chicken wings in this peach tea, and they would be
Okay.
really good. People talk about marinating chicken wings in like Coca-Cola and stuff like
I
that.
don't
So
do
I have
that.
to. I don't do that. But
All
I
right,
have to
well-
assume if you can do stuff like that, you could probably find something better that might flavor
I was
chicken.
thinking maybe like pork though. I feel like the pork
yeah,
and the
pork
peach.
might be good.
All right, we'll reevaluate and give an update on
I
what
just
we
had
can,
to share that.
on
I thought
what
of it and I
kind of-
didn't
what kind of food things we can
Yeah.
do with
think
this.
about it. Yeah.
All
I
right.
think the
definitely.
yuzu would work for that.
That
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, we've got homework, guys. So
I am gonna make some maybe some Greek chicken wings with some
Ooh.
yuzu, maybe something
Okay.
like that.
All
That
right.
might be good.
all right, homework. Report back.
Will do. Thanks,
All right.
Jeremy, for joining
Yeah,
us.
thanks guys. I
Yeah,
appreciate
Yeah.
much
it.
appreciated.
Yeah.
Thanks much.
Been fun away from work.
That's all. That's never a bad thing, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
fantastic. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day and thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
All righty, guys. Have a good dinner.
Thanks.
Oh, thank
yes.
you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for listening to the latest musings from Parenting by the Pint.
Be sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to us wherever you find your podcasts.
Have a great week and cheers to you all.